A drunk stumbles along a baptismal service on Sunday afternoon down by the river. He proceeds to walk down into the water and stand next to the preacher. The minister turns and notices the old drunk and says, "Mister, are you ready to find Jesus?" The drunk looks back and says, "Yes, preacher, I sure am." The minister then dunks the fellow under the water and pulls him right back up. "Have you found Jesus?" the preacher asked. "No, I didn't," said the drunk. The preacher then dunks him under for quite a bit longer, brings him up and says, "Now, brother, have you found Jesus?" "No, I did not, Reverend." The preacher, in disgust, holds the man under for at least 30 seconds this time, brings him out of the water, and says in a harsh tone, "My good man, have you found Jesus yet?" The old drunk wipes his eyes and asks the preacher, "Are you sure this is where he fell in?" A monkey is sitting in a tree smoking a joint when a lizard walks past. The lizard looks up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" The monkey says, "Smoking a joint, come up and join me." So the lizard climbs up and sits next to the monkey, and they have another joint. After a while, the lizard says his mouth is dry and that he's going to get a drink from the river. At the riverbank, the lizard is so stoned that he leans over too far and falls in. A crocodile sees this and swims over to the stoned lizard, helping him to the side. He then asks the lizard, "What's the matter with you?" The lizard explains that he was up in the tree smoking a joint with the monkey and his mouth got dry and that he was so wasted that when he went to get a drink from the river, he fell in. The inquisitive crocodile says he has to check this out. He walks into the jungle and finds the tree where the monkey is sitting, finishing a joint. He looks up and says, "Hey, monkey!" The monkey looks down and says, "OMGG, dude. How much water did you drink?" "Water." One day an atheist was taking a walk through the woods. "What majestic trees, what powerful rivers, what beautiful animals," he said to himself. "And to think they were all created by a cosmic accident." As he was walking alongside the river, he suddenly heard a rustling in the bushes behind him. He turned to see a 7-foot grizzly bear charging towards him. He ran as fast as he could up the path, but he looked over his shoulder and saw that the bear was closing in on him. Suddenly, he tripped and fell to the ground. As he rolled over to pick himself up, he saw the bear right on top of him, reaching for him with his left paw and raising his right paw to strike him. At that instant, the atheist cried out, "Oh my God!" All at once, time stood still. The bear froze. The forest was silent. As a bright light shone upon the man, a voice came out of the sky. "You have denied my existence for all of these years, taught others I don't exist, and even credited creation to a cosmic accident. Why do you expect me to help you out of this predicament? Am I to count you as a believer?" The atheist looked directly into the light. "It would be hypocritical of me to suddenly ask you to treat me as a believer now, but perhaps could you make the bear a believer?" "Very well," said the voice. The light went out. The sounds of the forest resumed, and then the bear dropped his right paw, brought both paws together and bowed his head and spoke. "Lord, bless this food which I am about to receive from thy bounty. Amen." A blonde got caught in a blizzard. It was snowing heavily and blowing to the point that visibility was almost zero when the little blonde got off work. She made her way to her car and wondered how she was going to make it home. She sat in her car while it warmed up and thought about her situation. She finally remembered her dad's advice that if she got caught in a blizzard, she should wait for a snowplow to come by and follow it. That way, she would not get stuck in the snowdrift. This made her feel much better, and sure enough, in a little while, a snowplow went by and she started to follow it. As she followed the snowplow, she was feeling very smug as they continued, and she was not having any problem with the blizzard conditions. After quite some time had passed, she was somewhat surprised when the snowplow stopped and the driver got out and came back to her car and signaled for her to roll down her window. The snowplow driver wanted to know if she was all right, as she had been following him for a long time. She said that she was fine and told him of her dad's advice to follow a snowplow when caught in a blizzard. The driver replied that it was okay with him and she could continue following if she wanted, but he was done with the Walmart parking lot and was going over to the Kmart next. One winter morning during breakfast, a husband and wife in northern Minnesota were listening to the radio. They heard the announcer say, We are going to have 8 to 10 inches of snow today. You must park your car on the even-numbered side of the street so the snowplows can get through. So the good wife went out and moved her car. A week later, while they are eating breakfast again, the radio announcer says, "We are expecting 10 to 12 inches of snow today. You must park your car on the odd-numbered side of the street so the snowplows can get through." The good wife went out and moved her car again. The next week, they were again having breakfast when the radio announcer said, "We are expecting 12 to 14 inches of snow today. You must park." Then the electric power went out. The good wife was very upset, and with a worried look on her face, she said, "Honey, I don't know what to do. Which side of the street do I need to park on so the snowplows can get through?" With the love and understanding in his voice that all men who are married to blondes exhibit, the husband replied, "Why don't you just leave it in the garage this time?" 3 writers, Al, Ben, and Carl, who were attending a writing convention, booked a 3-bedroom suite on the 75th floor of a hotel. When they arrived back at the hotel from the convention, the receptionist told them, "I'm terribly sorry, but all the elevators are broken. In the meantime, you will have to take the stairs." Now, Al was a writer of funny stories, Ben was a writer of scary stories, and Carl was a writer of sad stories. The 3 of them agreed that, to make it less boring, Al would tell the other 2 his funniest stories. While they climbed from floors 1 to 25, Ben would tell his scariest stories from floors 26 to 50, and Carl would tell his saddest stories from floors 51 to 75. They started to climb the stairs, and Al started to tell funny stories. By the time they reached the 25th floor, Ben and Carl were laughing hysterically. Then Ben started to tell scary stories. By the time they reached the 50th floor, Al and Carl were hugging each other in fear. Then Carl started to tell sad stories. "I'll tell my saddest story of all first," he said. "There once was a man named Carl who left the hotel room key in the car. A wife comes back home to her husband only to find out that the building of her apartment has caught fire. The place is surrounded by firemen and police officers who are not letting anyone through. The wife hysterically goes forward, shouting at them to let her through and that her husband was inside. The fireman tries to calm her down, tells her his condolences, and that all the people that were inside are dead. The wife goes even more crazy, wanting to pass through and find her husband. The fireman tries to explain that due to the fire, all the corpses are coal black and that she wouldn't be able to identify him. The wife, now even crazier, insists on going in. "I have been his wife for 20 years. I know every inch of him. I definitely can tell him apart." So the firemen finally decide to let her in. She goes to the first bag, opens it, and reaches with her hand all the way down to his private area. That's not him. She then goes to the next bag and then repeats the same thing. That's not him either. She opens the third bag and again reaches all the way down to the guy's privates, but this time there is a long pause. This guy is not even from this building. A teacher told her young class to ask their parents for a family story with a moral at the end of it and to return the next day to tell their stories. In the classroom the next day, Joe gave his example first. "My dad is a farmer and we have chickens. One day we were taking lots of eggs to the market in a basket on the front seat of the truck when we hit a big bump in the road. The basket fell off the seat and all the eggs broke. The moral of the story is not to put all your eggs in one basket." "Very good," said the teacher. "Next," Mary said, "we are farmers too. We had 20 eggs waiting to hatch, but when they did, we only got 10 chicks. The moral of this story is not to count your chickens before they're hatched." "Very good," said the teacher again, very pleased with the response so far. Next, it was Barney's turn to tell his story. "My dad told me this story about my Aunt Karen. Aunt Karen was a flight engineer in the war and her plane got hit. She had to bail out over enemy territory and all she had was a bottle of whiskey, a machine gun, and a machete." "Go on," said the teacher, intrigued. "Aunt Karen drank the whiskey on the way down to prepare herself. Then she landed right in the middle of 100 enemy soldiers. She killed 70 of them with the machine gun until she ran out of bullets. Then she killed 20 more with the machete till the blade broke. And then she killed the last 10 with her bare hands." "Good heavens," said the horrified teacher. "What did your father say was the moral of that frightening story?" The child said, "Stay away from Aunt Karen when she's been drinking." A woman awakes during the night to find that her husband is not in bed. She puts on her robe and goes downstairs to look for him. She finds him sitting at the kitchen table with a hot cup of coffee in front of him. He appears to be in deep thought, just staring at the wall. She watches as he wipes a tear from his eye and takes a sip of his coffee. "What's the matter, dear?" she whispers as she steps into the room. "Why are you down here at this time of night?" The husband looks up from his coffee. It's the 20th anniversary of the day we met. She can't believe he has remembered and starts to tear up. The husband continues, "Do you remember 20 years ago when we started dating? I was 18, and you were only 16, he says solemnly. Once again, the wife is touched to tears. "Yes, I do," she replies. The husband pauses. The words were not coming easily. "Do you remember when your father caught us in the back seat of my car?" "Yes, I remember," said the wife, lowering herself into the chair beside him. The husband continued, "Do you remember when he shoved the shotgun in my face and said, 'Either you marry my daughter or I will send you to prison for 20 years'? "I remember that too," she replied softly. He wiped another tear from his cheek and said, "I would have gotten out today." A couple was celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary when the wife claimed that her and her husband hadn't argued since their wedding night. After being asked about how they did it, the wife explains that after their wedding ceremony, they went and took a little honeymoon in a horse and buggy. The horse walked 10 miles and stopped, refusing to go further. "That's one," said the wife. The horse looked back, walked another 5 miles, and stopped, refusing to go further. "That's two," said the wife. The horse looked back, walked another 5 miles, and stopped, refusing to go further. "All right, that's 3, said the wife angrily. She stepped out of their buggy, grabbed a shotgun, and shot the horse. "Hold on," the husband said. "What do you think you are doing? We are 20 miles from home with no way back, and that was a vicious act of animal cruelty." The wife looked at her new husband and said, "That's one." 3 weddings were occurring at the same hotel one weekend. After the ceremonies and wedding meals, all 3 grooms happened to be at the bar at the same time, and they got talking about how they were looking forward to their wedding nights. The first groom said, "Hey, we should let each other know how we got on. How about at breakfast, the number of pieces of toast we order is the number of times we consummated our marriages?" The other 2 grooms agreed, and they went on their way, partying until the small hours, whereupon they took their respective brides to their respective rooms for their respective wedding nights. The next morning at breakfast, they all gave each other little smiles until the waiter asked the first groom how many pieces of toast he would like. "Just 3 pieces of toast for me," he announced, and the other 2 grooms gave him appreciative nods. The second groom, when asked by the waiter, said in a slightly louder voice, "I shall have 5, yes, 5 pieces of toast, please." And with a big grin, he looked around and saw the other 2 grooms winking and raising their glasses of orange juice in his direction. Finally, the waiter approached the third groom and asked him how many pieces of toast he would like. The man answered, "I will have 7 pieces of toast, please, and can you make 2 of them brown?" A newly married couple make their way to bed and everything is going well until, "Ooh, oh, look at that. What's wrong with it?" cries the bride. "It's just my junk," says the groom, offended. "Yes, but what's wrong with it? They're not supposed to look like that. It's all twisted." "That's what they look like," he replies. "Have you ever seen another man's junk?" the bride demands. "Well, no, but I'm normal. This is what they look like." "No, they don't," she tells him. "It's warped. There are all grooves around it. It's supposed to be smooth and straight." Long story short, the argument isn't settled and the marriage remains unconsummated. Next day, the newlyweds are walking around town and the groom announces he needs the bathroom. "There's a public gents over there," says the bride. "And while you're in there, take a look at the man next to you. See if his is the same as yours." The groom goes in and returns in a few minutes looking very crestfallen. "You're right," he says. "They are supposed to be smooth and straight, and I found out what I've been doing wrong." What? Well, they all shake theirs dry. I've been wringing mine out. A man pulls into a motel late at night. He goes to the office and the clerk asks, "What can I do for you?" The man says, "Well, I just got married and we'd like a room by the lake." "Oh, well, congratulations," the clerk said. "I'll give you a nice cabin by the lake." He gives the man the keys and directs him to a cabin. He watches as the man drives to the cabin, unloads his luggage, and goes into the cabin with his new bride. A few minutes later, the man emerges from the cabin and starts fishing in the lake. The man fishes until the sun comes up and the clerk is somewhat bewildered and walks out to where the man is fishing. "Morning," he says. "Catch anything?" The man shakes his head no, and the clerk goes on. "I couldn't help but notice that you're a newlywed and yet you spent the night fishing. Shouldn't you be in your cabin expressing your love for your new bride?" "Well, I would," says the man, "but my wife has gonorrhea." "Oh, I see," the clerk says. "Well, there are other ways to show your love. She could satisfy you orally." "She can't," the man says, "because my wife has pyorrhea." "Well, there's always the back door," the clerk says. "Can't do that," the man says. "My wife has diarrhea." The baffled clerk says. "Let me get this straight. Your wife has gonorrhea, pyorrhea, and diarrhea. Why did you marry her?" An older gent had an appointment to see a urologist who shared an office with several other doctors. The waiting room was filled with patients. He approached the receptionist's desk. The receptionist was a large, imposing woman who looked like a wrestler. He gave her his name. In a very loud voice, the receptionist said, "Yes, I see your name here. You want to see the doctor about impotence, right?" All of the patients in the waiting room snapped their heads around to look at the very embarrassed man. He recovered quickly, though, and in an equally loud voice replied, "No, I've come to inquire about a sex change operation, and I'd like the same doctor that did yours." Mr. Johnson goes to the doctor because he's having trouble performing in the bedroom. The doctor does a physical exam and finds nothing wrong. He takes some blood to send to the lab and tells Mr. Johnson he'll call with the results in a few days. When the doctor calls 3 days later, he informs Mr. Johnson that his blood work came back fine. "Oh, please, Doc, what else can we do to fix this? My wife and I will do whatever we need to," pleads the man. "Okay, Mr. Johnson, I want you and your wife at my office first thing tomorrow morning. We'll figure this out," says the doctor. So first thing the next day, Woody and Wilhelmina Johnson arrive at the office of Dr. Richard Checker. They are escorted into an exam room and soon joined by the doctor. "Thank you for helping Mrs. Johnson," says the doctor. "I'll do anything to help my Woody," she says. "Good, because I need your help," states the doctor. "This will sound strange, but can you please fully disrobe?" She is taken aback by this request. "Doctor, I couldn't possibly do that." "I understand your concern," says the doc, "but I promise you this is a safe space. This is purely for medical purposes to help your husband." "It's okay, Willie," says her husband with a nod. So Mrs. Johnson removes all her clothes. Says the doc. "Now, Mrs. Johnson, can you please slowly turn around?" She again protests, but is assured again by the doctor it's for the benefit of her husband. After being reassured by her husband, she slowly turns in a complete circle. Okay. Now I need you to jump up and down a few times. 3 or 4 jumps should suffice," says the doctor. Again, Mrs. Johnson slightly protests, but she is again assured by the doctor and encouraged by her husband. So she does 4 little hops in place. Okay, I see. Thank you so much for your help, Mrs. Johnson. You can get dressed and have a seat in the waiting room." So Mrs. Johnson collects her things, gets dressed, gives her husband a kiss on the cheek, and heads to the wiring room. "Well, Doc, what's going on with me?" asks Mr. Johnson. The doctor takes his glasses off and has a seat on his stool. He looks at the patient and says, "You are perfectly healthy, Mr. Johnson?" "She doesn't do anything for me either." A 17-year-old boy who works part-time at Pizza Hut drives up to park in front of the house in a beautiful Porsche. Naturally, his parents know that there's no way he earned enough with his after-school job to buy such a car. "Where did you get that car?" his mom and dad screamed in shock. "I bought it today," replied the teen calmly. "With what money, young man?" his mom demands. "We know how much a Porsche costs, and you cannot afford it." "Well, it's used, and I got a good deal," says the boy. "This one cost me $20. Who on earth would sell a car like that for $20? "The woman up the street," the boy replies. "I don't know her name. She just moved in. She ordered a pizza, and when I delivered it to her, she asked me if I wanted to buy a Porsche for $20. The boy's dad and mom hurry over to their new neighbor's house, ready to demand an explanation. Curiously, their new neighbor is calmly planting flowers in her front yard. "I'm the father of the kid you just sold a sports car to for $20, the dad says. "I need an explanation from you." "Well," the woman says, not looking up from her garden, "this morning I got a phone call from my husband. I thought he was on a business trip in Florida, but it seems he has run off to Hawaii with his secretary and doesn't intend to come back." "What on earth does that have to do with selling our son a Porsche for $20? The boy's mom asks, utterly perplexed. The new neighbor smiles very big and pauses for a minute. "Well, my husband asked me to sell his new Porsche and send him the money, so I did." A man on his retirement purchased a house situated near a high school. He spent the first few weeks of his retirement in peace, then the new school year began. One afternoon, early into the first semester, 3 young boys came down the street, beating merrily on every bin they passed. They did this the following day and the days after that, for a week, until the man decided it was time to take some action. The next afternoon, he walked out to meet the boys as they banged their way down the street. Stopping them, he said, "You kids are a lot of fun. In fact, I used to do the same thing when I was your age. Would you do me a favor? I would give you each $1 if you promised to come around and do your thing." The boys were more than happy to accept this and continued to bang the bins. After a few days, the man came out to meet them with a sad smile and said, "This recession really is putting a dent in my income. From now on, I will pay you each 50 cents to continue." The boys were unimpressed by this, but continued to do the same afternoon activities. A few days later, the man approached them again and said, "Look, the recession has again reduced my income, so from now on, I'm afraid I can only pay you 25 cents each." The leader then exclaims angrily, "That's it? If you really think we're going to waste our time banging the bins for 25 cents each, you must be a fool. No way that's going to happen. We quit." The man then enjoyed peace and serenity for the rest of his days. Joe and Nancy had been together for 60 wonderful years. Childhood sweethearts, they had married young and, after retiring, moved back to the old neighborhood where it all began. To celebrate their anniversary, they decided to take a nostalgic walk back to their old school. Hand in hand, they wandered through the familiar halls and, to their delight, found their old desk still in the same spot. There, carved into the wood from so many years ago, were the words, "I love you, Nancy." Smiling at the memory, they left the school and started their walk home. Just as they were crossing the street, a loud thud startled them. Right at their feet lay a bag, one that had just tumbled out of an armored car speeding away. Nancy gasped, "Joe, this is—" Joe bent down, peeked inside, and nearly choked. "Good heavens, Nancy! It's full of cash!" Nancy wasted no time. She grabbed the bag and clutched it to her chest. "We should take it home." Joe hesitated. "We should turn it in." Nancy shook her head. "Finders keepers." After a heated debate, Nancy won. They took the money home, and she carefully counted it, $1 million. Without missing a beat, she stuffed the bag into the attic and patted her hands. Problem solved. The next morning, a knock at the door sent Joe into a panic. Standing outside were 2 police inspectors, their expressions serious. "Good morning," one said. "We're investigating a lost bag of money that fell out of an armored car yesterday. By any chance, did either of you find it?" Nancy put on her sweetest smile. "No, officers, we haven't seen anything like that." Joe, bless his honest heart, immediately blurted, "She's lying. She hid it in the attic." Nancy shot him a glare. "Don't believe him. He's getting senile." The officers exchanged a look, then turned back to Joe. One of them said gently, "Sir, why don't you tell us everything, from the beginning?" Joe nodded, took a deep breath, and said, "Well, when Nancy and I were walking home from school yesterday." The two inspectors looked at each other. One sighed. "We're out of here." Mrs. Sharma had always been a woman of strong opinions, especially about her daughter's husbands. She decided it was time to put her 3 sons-in-law to the ultimate test, to see who truly cared for her. The next morning, while strolling by the river with her eldest son-in-law, Raj, she suddenly gasped, clutched her chest, and toppled into the water. "Help! I'm drowning!" she screamed, flailing her arms. Without a second thought, Raj leaped into the river, swam toward her, and dragged her safely to shore. The next day, Raj woke up to find a brand-new Honda City parked outside his house. A small note was tucked under the windshield wiper. "Thank you, your loving mother-in-law." Encouraged by the results, Mrs. Sharma repeated the scenario with her second son-in-law, Vikram. Sure enough, as soon as she fell into the river, Vikram jumped in, pulling her out to safety. The next morning, Vikram, too, found a shiny new Honda City in his driveway with the same note. "Thank you, your loving mother-in-law." Finally, it was the youngest son-in-law, Rahul's turn. As they strolled by the river, Mrs. Sharma took her dramatic plunge once more. "Help! I'm drowning!" she cried. Rahul stood at the riverbank, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. He let out a deep breath and muttered, "I've been waiting a long time for this." Then he turned and walked away. The next morning, Rahul stepped outside and froze. Parked in his driveway was a gleaming Mercedes-Benz. Eyes wide, he found a note on the windshield. "Thank you, your loving father-in-law." A man wakes up in a mysterious room. There's nothing in it but a ladder leading upward and a $10 bill on the floor. Suddenly, a disembodied voice echoes, "Accept what is offered, or climb the ladder to success." The man eyes the $10 and scoffs. "That's it? I'm climbing." He climbs the ladder. On the next floor, he finds $1,000 and a moderately attractive woman smiling at him. Again, the voice calls out, "Accept what is offered, or climb the ladder to success." Tempting, but he climbs again. Now he finds $50,000, a very attractive woman, the deed to a cozy house, and a job that pays twice his current salary. He pauses. Then the voice repeats, "Accept what is offered, or climb the ladder to success." He swallows hard and climbs again. This time, it's overwhelming. $1 million in cash. Bank records showing a net worth of $50 million. Keys to his dream car, a mansion, and 2 breathtakingly beautiful women beckoning him. As he takes a step forward, the voice rings out once more. "Accept what is offered, or climb the ladder to success." He hesitates. Everything he's ever wanted is right here, but ambition whispers louder. Slowly, he turns and climbs once more. This ladder feels different. Longer, darker. The air gets heavier. A foul stench grows with each step. Finally, he reaches the next floor and pulls himself into the gloom. There's no money, no women, no mansion, just a dim room and a figure hunched in the corner. The figure strikes a match and lights a cigarette. As the smoke curls up, the man recoils. The figure is enormous, disheveled, at least 400 pounds, and smells like he's never even heard of soap. The man stares in shock as the figure grins and steps closer. "Welcome," he says with a wheeze. "I'm Ceci." A man goes to a golf course and tells the club pro he's taught a gorilla to play golf. The club pro is understandably skeptical until he glances outside and sees a gorilla holding a golf club. "The way he drives the ball," the man says, mimicking a huge swing. "Just amazing. I'll believe it when I see it," the pro replies. The man tells the pro, "I'll bet you $50 right now he can beat you." After giving this some thought, the pro decides he could use an easy $50. They shake hands on it, and the 3 of them head out to the first hole together. The pro tees up first. He winds up and drives the ball almost 300 yards down the fairway. He grins briefly as the man sets a tee and ball for the gorilla. The gorilla approaches the ball and swings, launching a missile right down the center of the fairway, over 400 yards. The ball lands on the green, 5 yards from the hole. Flabbergasted, the pro is speechless. As they walk down the fairway together, the man says to the pro, "Look, bud, I don't want to waste your time or cause any embarrassment in front of anyone else out here, you know? You want to just slip me the $50 and we'll call it good?" Seeing a painful and shameful loss in his immediate future, the pro reluctantly agrees and forks over the money. As they're leaving, the pro says, "Hey, just since I'm curious, how's his putting?" "Oh," the man says, mimicking a huge swing, "just amazing."